department has given me the go-ahead signal. We are on the air all the way. WOR has turned the transmitter on. Woo-hoo. My Jew's harp is warmed up. And it's Friday night in spades. It is Friday, isn't it? Very good. What year is this? It's Rudy too. Everywhere I go, oh gee whiz, people know the part I'm playing. Oh gee whiz, wow, just a gigolo. Everywhere I go, people know the part I'm playing. Oh, wow, is it exciting. And another ball game, folks, is about to begin. They're lining up there out on the field. They're flipping for the kickoff. Yeah, there they go. The good guys have won the kickoff now. They have won the toss, and they have elected to receive. The bad guys are kicking directly into a 75-mile-an-hour gale. The wind is blowing with it the evil, dark clouds of disaster. And the good guys are lined up, waiting to get the kickoff. And they sweep up to the line of scrimmage. The referees whistle blow, and they are off. By George, and they're running.
We've just received word from Radio Central that correspondent Cliff Hanger is ready with that on-the-spot report we promised you from a Granoff Airlines plane somewhere over the South Pacific. So come in, Cliff Hanger.
This is Cliff Hanger, broadcasting to you from the forward compartment of the giant two-motored Granoff Airlines passenger plane Sling 2, high over the South Pacific, somewhere between Seattle, Washington, and Hong Kong, China. We're talking to Granoff pilot, Captain Harry Sillersby, a 27-year veteran of this non-skid airline, who has a fascinating story to tell us about the flight we're on today. Captain Sillersby, what, if anything, is different about this flight as compared to the many others you've made for Granoff?
Well, Cliff, what makes this particular flight different is that we're going to crash in about 7 minutes.
I see. And exactly how do you know this to be true, Captain Sillersby?
Well, Cliff, you see, each of our fuel tanks carries a maximum cubic centimeter capacity of some 250 gallons of high-test, specially prepared altitude-resistant gasoline. At approximately 10 miles to the gallon, those tanks, each containing 250 gallons, as I said, will enable us to fly a total of some 5,000 miles. But since the distance from Seattle to Hong Kong is some 6,000 miles, why, we've been able to calculate that our aircraft will fall into the ocean about 1,000 miles short of its destination.
Well, tell us, Captain Sillersby, is there any way you can make contact with ships, such as Coast Guard or Navy vehicles and the like, that might come to your rescue in the event of such a mid-ocean ditching?
No, Cliff, there isn't. Not at this time. You see, our radio is out, and therefore such potential rescue communication would be impossible.
Yes, I see. Well, what about the passengers, Captain Sillersby? Is the Sling 2 equipped with emergency gear, such as inflatable life rafts, Bay West-type jackets, and things of that sort?
No, Cliff, it's not. We left most of that kind of junk behind in order to make room for various extra articles of clothing that the crew brought along in the event we had a chance to go to a party or something in Hong Kong this trip.
Well, what about parachutes, Captain Sillersby? Do you have any of those?
Just one, Cliff, and I'll be using that because I have to stay in reasonably good shape to make my report on our upcoming disaster to the Granoff Airlines executives sometime next month, either in Hong Kong itself or in the States. I don't know which.
I see. Well, then in summarizing then, Captain Sillersby, in your opinion, you'd say this aircraft is definitely doomed, would you?
Yes, Cliff, I think it's reasonable to assume that. In fact, I would judge that sometime within the next 4, possibly 5 minutes, we'll be definitely diving into the ocean below.
Well, thank you very much, Captain Harry Sillersby of Granoff Airlines, for being on our program today.
My pleasure, Cliff.
And to show our appreciation for you taking time to chat with us, I'd like to present you with this beautiful Lamberton pen and pencil set, compliments of Unusual Gifts Incorporated, the place to go when you just don't know, with home offices at 236 Center Street in San Francisco.
Thank you very much.
And this is Cliff Hanger, somewhere over the Pacific, returning you to Radio Central.
Yes, sometimes it's so sweet, you just don't know whether you can stand it or not. You just don't know whether you can take another instant. Another moment. Another split iota of that delicious elixir of life. Oh, come join me, fellow sufferers. Come, dancers to the beat. Come, oh, singers of celestial song. Gather upon the tabletop of the eternal dance of life. Let's go. Beat the drum. Blow the horn. Sing out, oh, sweet soul. Hey, bring that other hand in there, will ya? Well done, yeah. Oh, sometimes it's so sweet you don't know what to do about it. Woo! It's Friday, gang. And the weekend is about to leap off the high board, 45 meters above the swirling dark turgid waters of the Olympic-sized pool of the resort of existence. Come join us, a star every day. Fantastic nightclub acts going on continuously. Yes, learn the Watusi and learn the Frug out on the patio. They are calling out to the dance. Oh, I can hear them now. Listen carefully. Don't hold your breath. Breathe in deeply. Pull in your stomach hard. Keep your knees loose. You ready, gang? Wasn't that exciting? Oh, the deep, heady rhythms of the passionate world of life itself. Sometimes, if we could do a lot of things. We could organize a fist fight, and we could go out for a hike. Who wants to go out for a hike tonight? Who wants to knock out some flies? Huh? How about playing a little catch, huh, gang? Just a little catch. Who wants to shag a few fly balls, huh? Who would like to toss a few pennies into that great penny ante game of... Gee, I forgot what that penny ante game of... What was that penny ante game of existence, was it, friends? Who was it who said that the first time? The great penny ante game of life. Earl Wilson. Of course, that's Earl Wilson, dealing always, of course, with the basic edges of the existentialist concept of the nothingness of being. Getting right down to the bottom of it. It's a great world to be in, isn't it, gang? And now, all together, all set in there? All ready? 1, 2, 3. That ain't it. Oh, them horns are blowing. All right, while you're getting it set up in there, Skip, go on, hit the little button there while they're still wiggling. I can see a couple of them breathing, so get them. Get them on the harpoon.
Miller High Life in pop and pour cans. Distinctive Miller High Life in pop and pour cans. Just pop and pour Miller High Life, the champagne of bottled beer. No opener needed. And inside every can, enjoy the hearty yet light goodness of Miller High Life. Brewed from a century-old recipe, only in Milwaukee. Miller High Life always gives you that perfect taste in beer every time. Always a bright, clear taste. Unequaled, unquestioned, unchanging. Now you can enjoy refreshing Miller High Life in pop and pour cans. Pop and pour Miller High Life. Always sparkling, flavorful, distinctive. Now in pop and pour cans.
Yes, sir, that's my baby. This weather is very provocative to the human spirit. I'll tell you, sometimes you just can almost open your mouth and just breathe it in. Do you have the vague, terrible feeling sometimes that here it is already and summer has practically gone and you haven't done anything again yet? Once again, another summer's come by, and isn't it true? And every springtime, you run out in the sunshine, you say, wow, it's here, oh, wowie, 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 boy, it's going to be different this year, oh, man, it's going to be every week at Jones Beach, oh, wow, I'm going to eat lobsters till they come out of my ears, I'm going to lay in the sun, I'm going to holler and pinch girls, wow! Well, 3 months later, it's August the 1st, and you still have the same barnacles hanging on your jockey shorts. It's August the 1st. You are still vaguely library paste color. It's August the 1st, and you still feel like any minute now it's all going to slip right out from under you, and it'll be mid-February all over again. Whee! Do you realize, friends, that just over the horizon, already you can feel the edges of it in the air, can't you? Yeah, up there, way up by the Arctic Circle. Next winter is waiting in the wings of time. Next winter is way up there, just a little bit north of Nome, scrunching down on its gray haunches, its cloven feet, and its ice blue icicle eyes, looking south, ready to spring. Oh, it's exciting. That's all right. That gives it that live quality. Oh, boy. Speaking of monsters with gray haunches ready to spring, this is WOR AM and FM New York. It's funny how these things remind me of reality. Before we do anything else, let's do our Peugeot spot. I hope there's a Peugeot in the rally Sunday. I don't know if anybody's got a Peugeot out there, a 404 or 403. Please enter it in the Greenwich Village Sports Car Rally. I want to talk about one. And for those of you who don't know about the Peugeot, this is probably the greatest rally car around today. As a matter of fact, it's been dominating for the last couple of years the world's absolute toughest rally, which is the East African Rally. It's a fantastic East African Safari Rally. It's a magnificent French car. It's got one of the cleanest designs, by the way, on the road today. Beautifully designed all the way down with fine upholstering, excellent paint, and it's unbelievably inexpensive to drive. In fact, recently, it was at Road and Track. Which was the magazine? Any of you listeners out there know which was the magazine that had the big story? The guy kept, don't worry about the time on, I'll watch it, kept the 5-year record on his Peugeot 403 as to what it cost him per mile and per year. It's one of the cheapest cars in the world to run and one of the most luxurious. You can see it at 2 East 46th Street. That's the Peugeot. And, okay, now, it's a funny thing. Saturday night, Friday night, all this excitement of the weekend sneaking up. I kind of feel it coming in, seeping in under the windowsills. And sneaking in over the transom about Thursday morning, I begin to warm up for the Saturday night show at the Limelight. I begin to feel it, And for those of you who have never been to the Limelight show, we take off. And by the way, that I want to quickly parenthetically put in the thing here that hardly a week goes by that we don't get 3 or 4 dozen letters from people who say they'd like to come up here to the studio to watch, do the show here. And I'm delighted and flattered and all the rest of it, but we just don't have that kind of studio. As a matter of fact, if you saw me right now, you'd be surprised. I'm knee-deep in scrub pails and brushes. There's a bunch of brooms behind me. There's a lot of pipes going over my head here, and it's very dark in here. As a matter of fact, we have a single yellow light bulb that hangs down from the ceiling, and once in a while a guy wearing gray overalls goes through and he swears. And that's what the studio's like here. You ought to see, if you think this is bad, you ought to see Gambling Studio. It's unbelievable. I don't know when they're gonna do something about that. It's a disgusting situation. I don't know. How does he put up with those things? It's a funny thing, he's got the only studio that squeaks itself if you rock back and forth, and little things in the walls and all that stuff. However, for those of you who want to see the show, we are down at the Limelight every Saturday night from 10:05 until midnight, and we do tap dance, a lot of stuff that we can't do here. I tap dance, and I have a funny hat I wear. You ought to see these great big fantastic rubber shoes I've got with the toes, stick out of the front there. And I have this thing, play little jokies. I squirt the audience with seltzer water, and, it's good, clean, mediocre fun. And for those of you who want to experience a little of the rich elixir of 20th century existence, well, we open up every night about 9:30 down there. We go on the air at 5 minutes past 9, and we're there until midnight. And if you want to come to the Limelight, you better call them right now and ask them for a reservation. The Limelight. Well, I don't know. You always say that, and every week ladies come up to me and say, well, I didn't think I could get in, but I called just last minute, and they said come right down. So don't chicken out. Little old ladies never chicken out. As a matter of fact, sometimes you wish they would. We'll be here. All right? It's 7th Avenue South, right down in the heart of Greenwich Village. And, I'm coming down through the night here about an hour ago, and it's just a slight edge of coolness in the air. And I'm reminded of something, a peculiar taste in the air. I can smell the ocean. I can smell the river It's a great smell. I could smell the river. It's an exciting smell. And it clouds up eyeglasses and makes your head buzz. Sometimes people even break out in a rash just smelling the river too good. And I'm reminded of something. I said, what is that? What is that? What is that? And then I am reminded of that fantastic moment, the time I'll never forget, the moment of the giant garfish. I don't know whether I should even tell that story tonight because it is Friday and a lot of little old ladies are still up, kids are still up, and people walking around with pink nightgowns are still up. And in other words, there's women and children out there with us tonight, and there are moments, true horror stories really never are horrible to me. The horror stories that you see on TV with the skulls jumping around and hopping up the stairs. The horror stories that they always say are horrors, where the big monster rubber ants from Mars are walking across the back lot at MGM, and you can see they're obviously phony. I have not been scared by a horror movie since I was about 6 and a half. Seriously. I just don't find them horrible. Because when you have had actual horror things happen to you, seriously, when you have had actual horror things happen to you, rubber skulls in Class X movies just don't do it in between Preparation H commercials. It just does not scare me. It scares me, yeah, but in another way. I fear for our society, I sit out there and I say, oh, where are we headed? When I can hear up on the screen John Lund is saying, stand back! Stand back! One step forward, Xanadu, and I will blast you with my ray gun! So, come on now. I don't worry about this. And I'm riding down on my little motorcycle, and I can smell the river and I can smell Jersey. I smell the salt marshes. And suddenly it comes to me. I have never told this story, I'm quite sure, ever on the air. The story of the giant garfish. How many of you have ever seen a garfish? Kids, would you please get me my sinister, evil music up there? I'll tell you what to get. You got the 50 great... No, not 50 moments. Got movie music in there? No, I didn't think so. All right, do you have George Antiles? No, you don't have that. I suppose you got Yes, Sir, That's My Baby, Ain't We Got Fun, the Whoopi Serenade. You got the Kiss Mama, Kiss Papa. All right, please, oh, no, honey, come on, don't be funny. We don't have time for Funsville. Please, give me 50 great moments of music, and, I'll have to ad-lib my sinister music, obviously. I'll have to ad-lib. It was a quiet night in southern Indiana. I am a kid, just a walking around scratching, spitting kid, and I am going fishing. Yes, I'll tell you something about fish. All of you guys walk around, and you think of fish, you think of little things like flounders and little fish with funny little names like porgies. It's cute little fish, Things like shad, roe. Out here, they think an idea of a tough fish is as Al McCann says so magnificently, a striped bass. Striped bass. Well, most people don't know anything about freshwater fishing out here in the East. Now, what they do know about is maybe trout fishing in a Connecticut trout stream. They call that freshwater fishing around here. Or they think occasionally going casting for smallmouth bass in a lake up in Maine. This is freshwater fishing. Well, let me tell you, there are lakes. Do you know the horror of a lake? Do you know one of the spookiest, most frightening things to my knowledge, in nature is a quiet, freshwater, mud-bottom, weed-bound lake at night. Oh, they're scary. They are scary. Even more so than the ocean, because the ocean is so big. If you were to run into a monster that was 1,000 feet high and 10 million feet across, it wouldn't really scare you. Not really. It would be so big you couldn't see its outlines. You couldn't see how it moved. You couldn't feel it, really. You could just stand And so the ocean really, to most people, is beautiful. You know, see the rolling ocean coming in, those great, thunderous, dark green, blue waves, and men are constantly painting pictures of it. Winslow Homer, and the watercolors of John Marin. Somehow the beautiful sea. Well, I have known lakes that were so frightening that people wouldn't even go near them. Would not even go near them. You know, the only person who writes in this genre is Shirley Jackson. Shirley Jackson deals with the horror of nature, the sheer primal fright of that big, implacable, dark, swirling, evil-smelling thing just laying out there. Just laying out there. Would you give me my reed pipe, please, the one you just played before, that reed pipe? Yes, sometimes this evil goes beyond the ability of words to convey it. And in southern Michigan, excuse me, I said earlier it was southern Indiana. It is not. Southern Michigan is dotted with millions and millions of lakes. This is glacier country. Have you ever seen that I will award you a brass figurine with bronze oak leaf palm for listenerdom beyond the call of ordinary duty? Yes, for rising out of that muck and mire of listener life out there in Radioland. If you can tell me what they've got on the license plate of Minnesota. What have they got? No, it is not the land of Lincoln. I'm sorry. No. All studio personnel exempt. I'm sorry. You don't have anything to do with it. You're wrong anyway. What do they have on Minnesota? All right, if you think you're so smart, what do they have on Michigan's license plate? A little harder, isn't it? Yeah, a little harder, isn't it? Well, all right. The slogan on Michigan's license plate ain't kidding. It is not kidding. This is a glacier state. And millions of years ago, maybe thousands, I'm not a geologist, thousands of years ago, Skip, great glaciers came down from the Arctic Circle and moved down past Detroit and continued to move on south, down along, and dug out that fantastic hole in the ground called Lake Michigan. That glacier just scooped out a big hole in the ground, maybe 400 or 500 miles long, and in some places 1,200 feet deep, and filled it full of icy spring water. Filled it full of gigantic lake trout that they fish for from the backs of heavy sea-going tugs up there in the straits, using 600-700 feet of bronze piano wire to play these 60 and 70-pound monsters from the deeps. You know those guys up there in the Straits of Mackinac where the wind always blows? And it's some of the most dangerous water in the world. There are islands called Beaver Island. There are islands called Ship Kill Island. There are islands called Hurricane Isle. Hurricane Isle. And they're not real hurricanes. It's just a steady, screaming wind that comes out of the Arctic and is funneled down that lake. It goes in the midsummer. The water is so cold you wouldn't believe it. You know, up in that area, the summer, the water up there is not cleared of ice sometimes until the last few days in June. The ice floats and the wind blows down out of the great north woods. And these men stand on the back of these tugs, these round-bottomed tugs that go plowing up through that cold ice blue water. It's spring water, cold and dangerous. Choppy, hard water, angry water. And they trail 600-700 foot of bronze woven piano wire behind them. And on the end of that piano wire is a spoon. You know what is it, a spoon? A spoon, a lure, an artificial lure. The spoon is about the size of the average soup plate. A big bronze spoon. One side is bronze-coated, the other side is beautiful silver, and they're polished. They burnish these and they polish them. And on the bottom of the spoon, there are 3 big hooks, a treble hook. And trailing from the spoon are 2 or 3 strips of pork rind. And they lower these down into the depths. Now, the bottom of that lake is one of the spookiest bottoms that any lake has anywhere in the world. It's pure white sand, as white as the driven snow, as pure as the soul of Snow White herself. White sand and large granite boulders. No weeds, nothing else. no crabs, no waving algae, nothing else, just white, ghostly sand. And you know, they have never been to the bottom. Men have never been to the bottom of that part of the world. They have photographed it. The water is far too cold, dangerous, and icy. Fantastic cross currents, deep undertows. And these men troll. They troll for giant lake trout. 60, 70, up to 100 pounds. Enormous white, silver, gold fish with angry, flashing teeth. Ah! They hit that spoon way down deep in there, and they play them for 3 and 4 hours. All right, you got the scene? It's exciting country. Now, that old glacier moved down, see? And as it came moving down Michigan, it dug all kinds of little potholes all over. It'd dig up a little pothole. And make a little hill here. And make a great big gash across the countryside there. Then it would bounce and make little tiny sump holes. Well, one day that old glacier just up and melted. Just up and passed away. Just about the time it hit the low southern end of Lake Michigan, just expired and died and finally melted. And as it melted, all those holes filled up with the melted water left over from the glacier. And the springs began to spout and spew their ice water into those dark pools. And the weeds began to grow. And the silt and the mud, the ancient skeletons of millions of lost and defeated creatures, began to settle to the bottom. And the silt grew thicker and thicker. And the great trees that grew on the edges of these lakes died and grew and died and grew again. Some of the lakes spread out and became huge, miles long and miles wide. Others died, just dried up and disappeared. And those that grew began to get swampy way down at the far end with white, seared stumps, looking like the teeth of ancient prehistoric monsters. White stumps of trees dead so long that man could never remember when they were alive, and they just stare out of that water. These are the lakes that frighten men. These are the lakes that scare the living daylights out of a cane pole bait fisherman when he comes over the hill and looks down at Clear Lake. Clear Lake lying below, down on the edge of the hill. Clear Lake catching just a touch of sunlight and reflecting it back to the leaden skies of southern Michigan. Way down off to the left, the lake curves like some ill misbegotten snake. And those snaggle-toothed stumps, white, dead, grind out at the sky. And way off over to the right, a little touch of sandy beach. And a cow wandering down from the hill to quietly lap up some of that ice-cold spring water. A blue heron, a great blue heron, floats quietly across the swampy stumps. And somewhere off in the distance, a loon laughs. Have you ever heard a loon crying out over a Michigan lake, over a dead, cold, icy Michigan lake at 3 in the morning? Clear Lake below. And a sign says, bait for sale. Boats to rent, summer cottages for hire. Wow. Okay. Well, there are many kind of fish in these lakes. There are many kind. There are the evil lamprey. Have you ever seen a lamprey? The great scourge of the Great Lakes. A lamprey is a sea fish that a few, maybe 15, 20, 30 years ago began to sneak down through the waters of the St. Lawrence. And one day he arrived in Lake Michigan and immediately began to attack all the great sea trout, began to attack all those beautiful white lake fish and the walleyed pike and the bass, and killed them by the millions until finally practically the only thing left in Lake Michigan was the most evil appearing of all of the sea creatures anywhere, the sea lamprey. Oh, have you ever seen a sea lamprey? You can't believe it. The sea lamprey is only about 10 or 12 or maybe 14 inches long. He's kind of snake-like. has a long fin that arches along the top of the body and along the bottom of the body, and he worms his way through the water sneakily. He worms. He spirals through the water. Always looking, always looking, always looking. His mouth is a circular mouth of nothing but millions of tiny sucking teeth that is open all the time. It's like a rubber suction cup that's alive and moving. 2 tiny red-rimmed eyes. The lamprey is looking for his prey, and then suddenly a poor little yellow perch, maybe 3-4 weeks old, just beginning to move out of the shell stage, comes moving around, wiggling along around the edge of a rock, and the lamprey attaches itself. A tiny lamprey, no bigger than the edge of your finger, attaches himself to the side of this perch. His teeth sink in, and he begins to suck the blood. And it takes weeks for that lamprey to kill him. He just sucks and sucks and sucks. And one day the fish is dead and turns belly up, and the lamprey goes, plow, spits him out, and then goes out after another one, snaking, worming his way through that icy, beautiful, clear spring water. Well, there's all kinds of fish there. You want to hear more, gang? Do you really skip? Do you? You do, huh? Well, one day I'm this kid, see. We used to go fishing, and we fished for sunfish. Little fish, sunfish and bluegills. And me and my kid brother are sitting there all afternoon in the hot sun, pulling out sunfish and bluegills and crappies. Isn't that a great name for a fish? And we're pulling out rock bass. And we're fishing with the worms, and the water was so clear, believe me, the water was far clearer than the water that you get in a drinking glass in New York City. Incredibly clear. And 15 feet below, you could see the seaweed just waving as the current, the spring current brings it back and forth. These great yellow, green, blue, red leaves. Oh, there's hardly anything more beautiful and scary than to look down into a weed forest. Now, these weeds are maybe 10, 15 feet high. They're thick, deep, dark weeds. In fact, probably more swimmers die getting caught in weeds in Michigan lakes than through any other reason for drowning. And a man will be out, you'll see a man out surfboarding, or you'll see some guy out on skis, water skis, and you go around the lake, and then he hits, he wipes out and never comes to the surface. They find him 4 days later in 30 feet of weeds, floating up and down with that current, up and down with that current, with his surfer suit, up and down with that current, his guitar strapped to his back, up and down, up and down. The Beatles don't sing about that one anymore. Up and down. Well, my kid brother and I are looking into this water, see, and he gets, you know how he's about 8, I'm about 10. And this goes on for about 3 hours, and the sun is beating down. You can smell the lead on the bottom of this rowboat, and you can smell the paint, and you can smell the worms. They're dying in the can. And the kid brother keeps going, hey, let's go in. Come on, wow. He was not nearly the fishing nut that I was. So I says to him, Randy, let's just pull up the anchor and drift in among the stumps. And he says, well, all right. And he goes, pulls up the anchor, and we begin to drift in. Well, we drifted in more and more towards shore. And here were these big 10, 8, 15-foot white stumps of ancient petrified trees sticking out. This is a great place to fish, you know. Fish like to hang around those things. Bass especially like to hang down deep under those roots and strike away at the fingerlings when they come a little bit too close. And you know, perhaps you don't know that every lake, every fish, every big lunker in a lake has a territory marked out. Every big fish has his territory. And generally he does not hit something because he's hungry. He hits because a wise guy has showed up in the territory. And so when you cast your plug in there, you know, that little plug goes, he says, all right, smart guy, clear out. And that little red and white plug goes past again. I told you, smart guy. And he says, okay, here comes Big Daddy, wise guy. Whoop, pow. And that lunker hits that son of a gun and flies 15 feet up in the air, flips over twice, and hits the water jumping. Yes, sirree, he has landed a basserino in the upper mandible. Well, this day we're floating back there, deeper and deeper into this soft, shallow water where the weeds poke out of the water and the reeds stick up to the sky and those big crows go flying off and the cows stand knee-deep. We're drifting in. And I see down there, I see a lot of logs floating around, just laying there. You can just see them floating. A long, dark log on the water. Just floating like that, a long, dark log. I says, Randy, look at it. Watch now. We drift up to this log. Just laying there in the water, just like that, in that dark water. And with that, I reached down and says, watch, Randy, watch. And bow! A gigantic tail, I'm not kidding you, 3.5 feet across, slaps the water. And there, laying by the boat, was a 6.5-foot garfish with a long, sharp, sword-like snout. They look exactly like a swordfish, except they lay there sort of flat side up and watch the sun. And the sun hits them on the back, and that sword arches down. They kind of hide it from view. And he looks like an old, pock-marked, ancient log, just floating there in the sun, waiting for a turtle, waiting for some kind of a little creature to come and sit and just watch him. A garfish. Well, this gar hit the boat with the side of his toe. Boom! He smacks it like that. He shakes his sword and looks right in the boat, not 1.5 feet from my kid brother's face. He hits the bottom of the boat. He says, quick! And he's laying there flat out. I grab the 2 oars. You know, that wild moment, that incredible, unbelievable moment of hysteria. Oh, my heart is hurting. My gut is hurting. I am rowing a 27,000-pound rented lead rowboat as fast as a 10-year-old kid can row it. Randall is laying on the floor of the rowboat, face down, going, I'm rowing. We're now back out in sunfish territory. The sky is blue above us. Back there, 200, 300, 400 yards behind us, those white logs are sticking out of the water. And the sun is sparkling on the quiet surface of Clear Lake. A cow somewhere off in the distance. And down below us, those beautiful little golden, red, and yellow 4.5-inch sunfish played and cavorted in the feeble rays of the yellow light that came down through the weeds. And the big blue heron, plow, 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 plow. You know, a blue heron flies like a kite that's been wound up. Pow, pow. And Randy lay on the bottom of the boat, weeping. And I sat and looked back at those stumps. Somewhere back out there in the darkness, 100-pound garfish just floated back up to the surface and began to quietly bask in the sun, waiting for another victim, waiting for another friendly camper to come down. Come, worms for sale, boats for rent, cottages, housekeeping, beaches. Come along, come with me to the Casbah of life. There are many things under the sun. And that old glacier, 1,000 years ago, just lay there on the surface. Just lay there. And somewhere the primal voice of man called out, calling out his guttural commands for the sun to stand still. But it didn't. It won't. It never will. The mud is forever. The rocks are forever. And the water just moves on and on and on and on and on. And kids will fish. And kids will learn. Gee, tell me a story. Oh, did that scare you, Skip? Nah, not a tough-hardened guppy fisherman like you, you know. You know if I am properly primed, for those of you who come down to the limelight, I may just tell the story of the great golden dogfish. At the time I learned, the great golden dogfish. You know, it's a funny thing about this fear of nature. Have you ever driven in a car at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning? And the car is all of a sudden all alone, and there's nothing for millions of miles. And you're boring away through the darkness. Just boring away, and there's this little tiny beam of light ahead of you. Your poor little sad headlight, you know. The wind is going past the windows, over the top of the car. You're hitting those little creases, you know, in the concrete. You turn the radio up. You're trying to get some human voice, and then all of a sudden, blah, 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 blah. A flat. An F-L-A-T, of all places, a flat. And you stop. You turn the motor off. You get out of the car. And all around you, suddenly you begin to hear crickets. You hear frogs. And you hear things that go bump in the night. And you scurry around to the back of your car and you open up the trunk. Say, I'll get my spare on. Where's the jack? Oh, I left the jack. Oh, no, in the garage. I got no jack. Holy smokes, I'll lift it up myself. And off in the darkness, you hear something go. And above you, the great Big Dipper just looks down and smiles with a cold blue light. Ah, we are alone in this universe, friends. Somehow those pictures from Mars convince me. We are alone in it all. Alone, 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 and there ain't nobody else, just us. And a few things that go bump in the night.